I'm doing great. I'm doing great, man.
How's the week and trying to stay properly hectic with all the stuff that's going on?
Yeah, start off with the announcement of what happened with Coach Lake, and then from there it's just a matter of us as coaches getting our guys refocused on the task at hand, and making sure we get them prepared for this Saturday against Arizona State.
Have you and Bob discussed who's going to be calling plays this weekend, or how's that going to be handled?
We have not. Because Gregory's right now making sure he can figure out what's best for the team as we get them prepared for Arizona State. I think when that time comes, then he'll decide, and it will move forward from there.
And I assume that before games, you guys address each position group individually, or, does Jimmy normally address the team? Is that something that, when there's all these changes that are going on, is that kind of difficult to determine, who's going to be the voice in the room before a game you guys still have to play?
Well, Coach Gregory is right now our head coach, for this week. And so anything that Coach Lake would have done, Coach Gregory is doing. We're trying to keep things as similar as possible. And then when we get to our position meetings, he's been at his position meetings and out on the field. He's been calling defenses as well as trying to be the head coach as well. So, if anybody, he's the one coach that got the double duties. But for the kids, we want them to feel that everything's exactly the same in terms of the process of what we're doing. The most important thing is making sure we as coaches are getting these kids ready for Saturday.
I was kind of curious about the reaction just of the room up to the news, and was it a shock? Was it surprise, sadness? What was it?
I think initially shocked. We all found out on Monday morning about what happened with Coach Lake, and I think as soon as that was done, we separated in position meetings so we could talk to these players and get them refocused, regrouped on the task at hand, really, regardless of what happens. We use the whole phrase, next man up, and that's kind of the approach we're taking right now. The sun was up this morning. We got back out on the practice field, try to get better today, and then make sure we keep tweaking things to give us the best game plan for Saturday.
I know it's probably difficult to maybe forecast, but does a situation like this galvanize a program?
I think that depends on the players. All depends on how they react to our coaching, our approach to it, and I think that to me is the biggest focus for us, making sure that regardless of the situation, that those guys stay united, they stay focused, making sure they're still preparing the correct way, because ultimately it comes down to those guys being on the field on Saturday and then executing to win this game. Regardless of what happens with the Coach Lake situation, regardless of how we approach it, it comes back to this team playing for this team on Saturday, and getting the victory. That's what they want. They want to win on Saturday. So, us as coaches are gonna back that feeling and make sure we do our part as coaches. And then Saturday, those guys will come out and play hard.
I know part of the role is almost kind of, you got to manage these players as well and love them up and stuff like that. Does that take even a greater role when there's such a big shock and there's a change at the top like it happened?
Yeah, not necessarily. We have a leadership council that does a great job, so they're the middleman between coaches and players, and those guys already are starting to refocus the bond of everybody. And then, we as coaches, we do so much bonding stuff with our players. We do dinners. I got a dinner coming up on Thursday, and Coach Huff, we'll come up here and he does it all the time with the O-line. So that communication, that bonding already, I think translates to the bond that we have with our players, and that, I think, pushes towards Saturday. There's still the common goals of how we teach, how we coach, and then the bonding between not only position group, but as a team. All those things carry over to the team.
I was also curious about, you mentioned the players and just their role in all this. Who do you have to lean on now? Is it as easy to say Zion when a player like Ryan Bowman is out? I know he's still probably an influence in the room.
Yeah.
But on the field, does a guy like Zion take on an even greater role because you lose Ryan Bowman?
Yeah, absolutely. Specifically Zion. Ryan Bowman was the leader of my group specifically, and then, so Zion will be what we call next man up. No different than what's going on right now with the coaching situation. That's Zion's job. Zion's job is to go and be the verbal communicator, which he has not, but he's accepted that role and taken that on, but not changing what he does on the field. His responsibilities and what we expect him to do for the package, that won't change. But picking up where Rhino left off, that has to change. For Zion, he has to be that verbal leadership guy. He has to be that verbal guy in our room, and I think he's doing a pretty good job.
I know the $64 question, especially on the front,
Yeah.
is the rush defense.
Yep.
you give up 200 yards to Travis Dye, and now you've got Rashad White coming in. He's off a 200-yard
Absolutely.
game. It feels like the game plan should be simple enough on paper. How do you maybe adapt or change who you are when you're in 10 games in the season almost?
Well, yeah, I think you're right. I think the game plan is simple. We're trying to execute something to stop the run. That to me will basically fall on coaches, myself included, coach of the defensive line, coach of the outside linebackers. We just got to be more physical, and then we got to execute our technique. At this point in time where we are in our season, there is no such thing. I think I said in the beginning of the year, just the inexperience of our players, and there's no such thing as that at this point. So for me, I just got to do a better job coaching it. We got to emphasize what we're trying to create, and then have the stamina to do it in the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, that's when fatigue set in, and we're not executing the technique exactly how we're coached to do it. And that's really my job. That's my job. I got to get my players to do that, and it's a reflection of me.
I know you guys take so much pride as a defensive staff in eliminating big plays, and obviously the scheme is a big part of that, keeping everything in front of you. Mm-hmm. But with that might take a man out of the box or not allow you guys to maybe be able to clog things up as much as maybe you'd like. Is there going to have to be some more give and take? I know you guys have already tried to add more defensive linemen in the box and do some other things. Do you feel like even more tweaks to the scheme are necessary?
I think Coach Gregory does a good job in trying to tweak things as we go on and move forward. And, yeah, we're going to tweak some stuff and see if we can add on, see if we can subtract, see if we can disguise. But ultimately it does come back to our technique. It really does. We can throw as many guys as we want in the box, but we still got to execute the technique. And to me, that was my focus in coaching this week, is making sure that does not fail us when we come Saturday, regardless of the call.
With the outside linebacker group specifically, who of the group of, Cooper, Savell, Braylon, Lolopea, some of that group, who do you feel has made the biggest strides and is maybe ready for that breakout performance?
I think in the last week, Braylon has made a lot of strides. He's accepted his role in terms of pass rush. He's accepted his role in terms of the run game. He's really, really physical up front. I would expect good things from him moving forward. But I think the group as a whole is getting better. If you really watch those guys each week, they're improving from play to play. Something that they were very inexperienced in the Michigan game. Last week I think they showed up and they did their responsibilities as best they could. So I think as a group they're improving. And for me, I say it on Zion. Zion's the most experienced in our group, and I put a lot of ownership on him to making sure he carries this group forward.
And with a guy like Jalen Daniels, he's another in that role of DTR and Brown and some of these other Barbers and some of these other guys in the space. What's the key?
Keeping him in front and inside. I mean, it's really hard to simulate what he brings to the table. I mean, he's fast, he's quick, he's got an arm. Do you let him throw it? Do you try to get him out of the pocket? He poses so many problems, and he's part of the run game. There's 11 guys now. There's 11 man versus 11 man because the threat that he has as a runner. So he's obviously the guy that we got to figure out. We got to continue to figure out a plan to make sure we can keep him in the pocket, put some pressure on him, make him at least make some quicker decisions than normal. But that will be an issue come Saturday. I mean, that's something that we have focused on a lot, but he's a really, really gifted athlete, good player, leader of that team. So we got our hands full on Saturday.
Okay, so what makes an elite outside linebacker?
Being able to play the run like a defensive lineman, being able to play a pass like a DB. We are the conflict player. You're required to do both. And I think we have some guys that have the tools, but to be able to execute all at one point in time, that's the challenge for an elite outside linebacker. When they're playing the run, we have to look like those guys inside with the Takis and the Tuis. And then when we're playing pass, because we do drop out, then we got to look like our safeties. We have to be able to cover backs one-on-one. We have to be able to drop 12 yards deep. And that, to me, makes it an elite outside linebacker in our particular defense.
Hey, Patrick, Thursday dinner, what's on the menu?
Kalbi, mac salad, my wife likes to make desserts, so I'll leave that special for her. And then I'll make some baked beans. So this is going to be rice. So this can be, for sure, if we do anything right, we'll be eating right this week, for sure.
All right.
Thank you, guys.